We're back on the Thicc podcast, and today we are going to be giving you our record predictions for the AFC West, what many people are regarding as the best division in football, the division with the most high-end quarterback talent, the division with the best coaches, and the division which will likely have the conference's Super Bowl representative coming out of it. Obviously, the Chiefs have dominated that division for a good long while ever since Mahomes took over, but will there be a new winner? Will there be someone to shake up the norms? We'll answer that question today. And starting things off with the last place team in the division from 2024, and what I unfortunately think will be the last place team in the division in 2025, the Las Vegas Raiders. And yes, the Raiders clearly got better in the offseason. Offensively, they added Ashton Jeanty. They had a massive upgraded quarterback going from Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew to Geno Smith, a top 12 guy if you're being generous. That is going to reinvigorate the offense. That is going to give a lot more juice to the passing attack, and that is going to open things up through the air for them that they've just not had access to before. I'm a little hesitant to put full faith in the offense just because I don't think the interior of the offensive line is quite up to snuff yet, and they play some truly good defenses. Speaking of defense, they lost Christian Wilkins for the season. They have cut him and moved off. That is a massive subtraction. They lost their best cornerback, Nate Hobbs, to the Green Bay Packers. That is going to hurt them. And that is what I think is going to wind up costing this team games. Because defensively, they're the worst in the division by a pretty wide margin. And offensively, they've either got the third or fourth worst quarterback with Geno Smith. Depends how you view Bo Nix. I personally think Bo Nix is clearly worse than Geno, but he's not on par with Herbert. He's not on par with Patrick Mahomes, and that is going to cost them games. So that's a get in a shootout with an inferior defense, inferior wide receivers, and an inferior quarterback. They're not going to win many games. And their out-of-conference schedule is pretty tough. So I've got the Raiders going 6-11. Not what you want from Pete Carroll's first year as a coach. Not what you want from Geno Smith's first year in Vegas, but it is what it is.
I want desperately to believe in the Raiders making a push towards being a wild card team and being better than they were last year with all the improvements that they made that Isaiah mentioned, between Jeanty adding juice to the running back room, which was dead last in the NFL last year, making a massive improvement at the quarterback position. Their offense is undoubtedly going to be better, and they are merely a victim of the division that they're playing in. They're not even close to the best quarterback in the division still, even with the improvement. They're not even close to the best roster in the division. If they were playing in the AFC South, we could make a very good argument for them winning that division. And if they were in the AFC East, you could make an argument for them being the second best team in the division. But they don't play in those divisions. They're not as talented as the other three teams in their own division, so their record is going to represent that. I also have them going 6-11, and the Chiefs, Broncos, and Chargers just have better rosters with equally good head coaches.
I'd say even better head coaches. Pete Carroll's kind of old, man. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but he is getting up there in age. He's been out of football for a little bit of time. I'm questioning if he's on the same level as a guy like Jim Harbaugh, Andy Reid, or Sean Payton. I think they're at a coaching disadvantage, even if it is only a minor one compared to the rest of their division.
Well, if you're being optimistic for the Raiders, you can say equal coaching. You could say, but the roster's not there. So even if you call the coaching equal, the roster's not as good.
I don't think if you're being optimistic. I think you're being delusional if you're saying equal
That's
coaching.
fair.
Looking at the out-of-conference schedule, too, they got to play Washington, which is going to be brutal. They got to play the Cowboys, the Texans, the Eagles. This is a tough slate of games for a team which finished last, leaving aside the Broncos, Chargers, and Chiefs 6 times. So maybe 6-11 is a bit too harsh. I just can't imagine them grabbing that final wildcard spot, particularly in the AFC. It's just not going to be their year. Unless, of course, someone goes down. Like if Mahomes goes out week 2, then yeah, they conceivably could snag a wildcard spot, maybe even win the division if things really open up.
Or Ashton Jeanty runs for 2,600 yards and just takes over the NFL.
Yeah, if Ashton Jeanty does what he did at Boise State in the NFL, things may be a little bit different. I'm going to go ahead and pick the under on that number for Ashton Jeanty. I'm not going to be as optimistic as you.
We have the Broncos, and I am not the biggest Bo Nix believer yet. I think Broncos fans in general are a little bit overly optimistic of what they have from a roster perspective on the offensive side of the ball. Courtland Sutton is talented, but after Sutton, not a lot of receiver talent there. Evan Ingram is a nice addition, but it's not like he's one of the best tight ends in the NFL. And when you compare them to the Chargers or the Chiefs, I think those are teams that have better skill positions with better quarterback play. So offensively, I don't think the Broncos offense is there yet. We've seen several quarterbacks throughout their careers go through a sophomore slump. So I don't necessarily know if the offense is there. On the other hand, their defense is going to be phenomenal. They only added talent in the offseason. They drafted Jahdae Barron. They had the third best scoring defense in the NFL last year. So even if their offense is not that great, if it's average, middle of the pack, we are going to see them win some very low scoring games just because of how good their secondary is, how good their front seven is, and what they're able to do to opposing offenses. So while I'm not the biggest Bo Nix fan, I still have them going 11-6, and I think they'll be in the playoffs.
Yeah, what you didn't mention about the offense, their O-line is probably the best in the division. It depends on how you view the Chargers' interior offensive line. If you think Slater and all can stay healthy for an entire year, their O-line is awesome. They got R.J. Harvey out of UCF. He would have been a first-team All-American, in my opinion, if not for that fellow out in Boise doing otherworldly things at the running back position. So their ground game should be a lot better than it was last year with Javonte Adams as their Javonte Williams as their running back one. So that'll be an element to the offense which just was not there in 2024. As for the sophomore slump, the passing stuff, I truly do not care about what the Denver Broncos do through the air. Because this defense, what they have here, is comparable on paper to the Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware-led defense of 2015. This is the best defense by EPA per play in football last year. Forced a ton of turnovers, generated a ton of touchdowns, made life so much easier for their offense. And they just got better pretty much everywhere. They didn't lose any pieces. They added the quality gems from the 49ers roster. They drafted to that side of the ball. They have done everything in their power to build what was already an elite, fantastic unit into an historically great defense. The Broncos are going to bludgeon teams with their running game, with their defense. They will pitch multiple shutouts, in my opinion, which is a rare thing in the NFL with how good these skill players are. Zach Allen, double-digit sacks. Nick Bonito, double-digit sacks. Potentially, if they try to test them enough, Patrick Surtain, double-digit picks. I think it's a lot more likely Jahdae Barron hits more interceptions than Patrick Surtain because teams just are not going to throw at him. Great safety play, nickelback play. Everything in their secondary lines up. Got Dre Greenlaw. If he can stay on the field, he's one of the 5 to 10 best inside linebackers in football. This defense is insane. Anyone who does not have them as one of their 2 best units in the league is lying to themselves. This team will shut down everybody. They also have one of the biggest home field advantages at Mile High Stadium in the league. This is a perfect storm for the Denver Broncos. This is going to be as good as the team has been in Denver since that Super Bowl run. I've got the Broncos going 12-5, but due to how other things shake out, I've got them winning the division. This team is going to be fantastic. If you're a real sicko, enjoy seeing quarterbacks get sacked, pressured, throw terrible balls, you will enjoy watching the Broncos play. This team is great. They're winning the West.
I could 100% see them going 12-5. I just don't see them winning the division. I think you're being a little bit too pessimistic when it comes to their records on teams we have not mentioned yet.
Oh, well, yeah, I forgot you're a big Chargers coper. If you got them finishing below the Chargers, I do not know what to tell you. It is a very interesting viewpoint, to say the least. But let's talk about LA next, since you know we're obviously going to talk about Kansas City last. I like how the Chargers have handled their offseason. They've upgraded at both running back positions, getting Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris as their 1 and 2, bringing in Mekhi Becton to shore up that presumably right guard position, rotating some stuff around on their defense. But I still don't think the O-line's that good. I still don't think they've got a true number 1 receiver. Lam McConkey's nice, sure, featured on the NFL Top 100, but he's not someone you can just lean on through the air. Unless Quentin Johnson takes that next step and becomes a 1,000-yard guy, their passing attack is still going to be sluggish with Justin Herbert. Their defense, I think, got worse in a few key areas. They lost a really good interior defensive line piece whose name's eluding me right now to the Rams in town. Their secondary is still not otherworldly. So, given how marginally they were the best or great in some areas in 2024, I don't think that's going to quite match up in 2025. I think the defense comes back down to earth. They're going to be a fringe top 10 unit, if even that. The offense just does not have the pieces to be a truly dominant force. Having said that, still great regular season quarterback, still very well coached, still a lot of high-end talented players all over the roster. We got them going 10-7, but I just don't think they match up to the Chiefs or the Broncos, frankly.
We always, or a lot of the time, we see Jim Harbaugh-led teams overachieve relative to what the perceived talent on their roster is heading into the season. And in year 1, there wasn't a lot to get excited about on their offense. We saw them add Joe Walt. We saw the offensive line get better, but they dealt with injuries on their offensive line last year. They dealt with a lot of injuries on their offense, and they still made a playoff push. The biggest reason I'm optimistic for the Chargers heading into 2025 is that it is year 2 of Jim Harbaugh, and he is building the team closer to what he wants it to be. Like you said, they added Amari Hampton, Najee Harris. I think that is going to be a better running back tandem for this Chargers offense. They shored up the offensive line a little bit, adding Mekhi Becton as a guard. We are going to see the Chargers ground and pound teams out, controlling the clock. And they also added Trey Harris in the draft to give some depth to their wide receiver room, where I think Ladd McConkey can be better in year 2. I think added wide receiver depth is a good thing. And Justin Herbert is their quarterback. Very good quarterback. So while I can definitely see the defense taking a step back, I think we are going to see the offense be more solid in both the passing game, dominant on the ground, and I have them going 12-5.
Yeah, it's like we're just saying words here. When's the last time a Jim Harbaugh team came to the season and overachieved expectations? I'll tell you when. It was the first year they made the playoffs with Aiden Hutchinson, the year he should have won the Heisman over Bryce Young. The past few years, the expectations have been about on level. People were talking about the Chargers as a wildcard team last year. They're talking about the last 2 Michigan teams he coached as teams who should make the playoffs and win the national championship. So that narrative is coming out of thin air. So I have a lot of respect for Jim Harbaugh, but I also know Jim Harbaugh is more than you. Let's not just attribute wins to a coach, unless we're going to actually talk about what he's good at, what he leads the offense to do. As for grounding and pounding teams out, they got Bradley Bozeman and Zion Johnson playing guard and center for them. That greatly inhibits what you can do from an offensive standpoint in terms of running up the middle. Maybe you just want to lean into the Mekhi Becton signing and hope he works out. Maybe you want to run outside the tackles, which I don't think Jim Harbaugh wants to do with Najee Harris or Amari Hampton. They're both physical downhill type guys. So I don't know about that. And you've got the lingering element of Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt's injury history hanging over your head. So the running game, I could see going squirrely really quick with some weaknesses on that O-line. Again, I don't think it's going to be a bad team. I don't think this offense is going to be unrecognizable, though. They're a good running team on paper, numbers-wise, in 2024. They'll be a good running team, maybe a little bit better in 2025. But paired that with a defensive losses, I just don't think it's going to be some otherworldly. What'd you have them going again?
I have them at 12-5.
You have them at 12-5. Yeah, 10-7, 12-5. I can't see them 12 wins. You got them beating the Broncos at all? Because I actually do have them picking off the Broncos in week 3.
I don't have my exact thing, but I think I had them splitting if I...
Yeah, but okay, then I'll look at the out-of-conference schedule. They get to play the Dolphins, who have historically matched up really well with them in the regular season. The Vikings are going to be a rough go for any team with their defense and their O-line. They have to play the Steelers, which their true strength as a team is the interior of their defensive line with Hammond and Hayward in there just destroying guards. So their matchups aren't great. Their talent level is not otherworldly. They do not match up. They're not the team you are expecting them to be just yet. Maybe that Harbaugh influence does carry down the line. They become a truly elite running team, replace their guard and center over the next 2 years, and then you can start talking about them winning 12, 13 games. I think it's a bit premature for that, particularly with them playing in the best division in football.
I'm choosing to be optimistic when it comes to the Chargers.
A team you're undoubtedly going to be optimistic on. I'll let you do the Chiefs.
Well, I also think Amari Hampton, he's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, so.
Yeah, let me guess, man. He's going to go for a crispy 1,200 yards with Najee Harris eating his touches, even though Najee Harris is currently slated to be the Week 1 starter. Unless you do believe
Najee
he's
Harris
flying
kind
now.
of it could be. It's going to affect his touches. As the best team in the division, who I think is going to be the best team in the division, a team that was dominant last year in the Super Bowl, is the Kansas City Chiefs. And for the few people that are maybe pessimistic about the Chiefs heading into 2025, they are too jaded by the dominant performance that the Eagles defensive line put on this Chiefs offensive line in the Super Bowl. This Chiefs team is still wildly talented. This Chiefs team still has Andy Reid as their head coach, Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback, and they are heading into 2025, they're at least heading into the season, healthy. We're going to have Isaiah Pacheco with a lot more time to recover from that broken leg. He's going to be more explosive. They added Josh Simmons in the draft to be their offensive tackle, and in training camp, he looks very good thus far, so I think we will see an improved offensive line. Rashee Rice will be back at some point this season. If it's a 4 to 6 game suspension, he'll be there for most of the year. Xavier Worthy, we have seen talented Chiefs receivers take a massive jump in year 2, so I think he'll be better. Travis Kelce seems to be skinny again, so maybe he'll have a little bit more wiggle to him this season. So I think the Chiefs are going to be very good on the offensive side of the ball. Did not lose a ton of defensive pieces. Spagnuolo always has the Chiefs defense firing on all cylinders, so their defense will be fine. This team knows how to win football games, and I still have them as kings of the AFC West at a 13-4 record.
It is an otherworldly amount of delusion. You said a lot of stupid things. The stupidest thing you said was their offensive line is going to be better. Did you just forget Joe Thuney is now a Chicago Bear? Has that just slipped your mind? In a perfect world where Josh Simmons plays at a really high level out the gate, which I just don't think he will, coming off a cataclysmic knee injury, leaving aside his deficiencies as a run blocker, even a perfect world, he might be able to play as good as Joe Thuney did at left tackle. Joe Thuney at guard is the best left guard in the NFL, and that's just gone from their offense now. That element of dominance on the interior of their offensive line is gone and is going to make everything around it worse. It is going to make Creed Humphrey worse. It is going to make whatever tackle they line up outside of him worse. They still have Jawan Taylor on their roster, the worst contract given out to a right tackle in all of football. That's not going to be great. And teams with a really good pass rush are going to just cave in this pocket and keep putting pressure on Mahomes. As you mentioned with the skill players, yes, they're talented on paper. Isaiah Pacheco just didn't look explosive at all coming off that injury. He's now going to be a running back who's another year older. Kareem Hunt is old, not that much of an effective player anymore on the ground. Rashee Rice probably going to be suspended. Hollywood Brown dealing with hamstring injuries, which you've expressed concern over in the past. So, I don't know. Conceivably, yeah, they could be a great offense, but in the real world we live in, it's going to be rough, particularly when you look at their schedule early. Chargers in Brazil with two pretty good defensive ends, that's kind of a wash. That is a coin flip game given where it is and who they're playing. I flipped a coin for that. I had the Chargers win that. So they start 0-1. Week 2, Chiefs are getting destroyed by the Eagles again. Not enough has changed in between the Super Bowl and Week 2 for them to stand a chance in that game remotely. Eagles are beating them. Then they get one over the Giants Week 3. What a surprise. They have to play the Ravens Week 4. Now they're 1-3. They got to play the Jaguars, good for them. They got to play the Lions, good for them. There are some points in the schedule they can easily be beaten. The Broncos pass rush and their secondary should just take this team apart. And as for skinny Travis Kelce, give me a break. They got skinny Luka Doncic coming out now. Are you really that susceptible to offseason propaganda? Is that what we're doing now? Travis Kelce's what, 35, 36? It ain't coming back. It's gone. It's not going to be there anymore at a Hall of Fame career. Now it's just a guy named Travis Kelce wearing a Hall of Fame tight end's jersey. He's not going to be that much of a factor in the offensive passing game outside of his extreme synergy with Patrick Mahomes. And their defense did lose some pieces in the secondary. Chris Jones got another year older, and they're coming off a 15-1 record with Mahomes on the field, which they really didn't deserve. Even if you're going to ignore the referee stuff, fine, by all means. There still are 2 games in there you can point to and say, that is an absolute fluke you won. Knock 2 wins off there. Knock some wins off the Broncos being a better team. Knock some wins off guys just being older. Mahomes being on the wrong side of 30. Their O-line being worse. And I've got them going 10-7, which is still a very respectable record. Gets them the 6th seed in the AFC. But this is not going to be a team who wins 13 games. This is not going to be a team who is dominant through the air. And if you're going to say it is, you just are being overly optimistic for the sake of being a Mahomes fanboy. And hey, he's a good player. He's a great player. He's going to be the second best quarterback of all time by the time he's done. But come now, we must be realistic.
See, you're a notorious Chiefs hater. The way it works with you is you are pessimistic when it comes to the record prediction. You are willing them to be worse than they actually will be. Last year it was
they're worse than 15-2.
Last year it was 11 or 12 wins. They get to 15 wins. This year they're only going to win.
Worst 15 win in NFL history, by the way. Worst 15-win team in NFL history.
This year they're only going to win 9 or 10 games. It'll wind up being a 13-win season. This Chiefs team wins football games. They're healthier on offense. They're heading into the season healthier on offense than they were throughout the majority of last season. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, they are going to figure a way to get things done during the regular season.
That's not an argument. That's just saying they win games because they win games. What that I said, can you actually push back on?
Everything I said in my initial statement, I think, pushes back on a few things that you said. You mentioned Isaiah Pacheco a year older. He didn't look good coming back after that leg injury. Yes, of course, he broke his leg during the season and came back and played during the same season. He's now had months to recover, months to work on his explosiveness, months to work on his speed, and they also added the running back in the
seventh. They have a welder on staff, by the way, because that metal plate's still in his ankle.
They also added the running back out of SMU, and I believe his name's Brashard Smith, which we've seen 7th-round running backs work for the Chiefs before, a.k.a. Isaiah Pacheco.
Currently listed as 4th in their depth chart, by the way. Are we really going to pull a 7th-round pick and say, yeah, that's going to be the difference?
The Chiefs' running back room is going to be more established and better than it was last year. And when it comes to the receiver room, I am a big believer that Xavier Worthy is going to take a step in year 2. I think we will see Rashee Rice back this season. He was gone basically all of last year. He was gone all of last year due to the injury that he suffered. And I do think we're going to see a a quicker Travis Kelce than we did last year, because last year he basically had no speed left. I do think
he's still got no speed left. His hamstrings and calves are still cooked. Losing weight is not going to change that. The issue with Travis Kelce in 2024 wasn't that he was fat, it was that he was old and slow. And being skinnier does not suddenly make you more explosive to a degree which is going to significantly move the needle. This is an insane bit of delusion. It will move the needle,
and having a high-quality offensive tackle can offset losing potentially the best left guard in the NFL.
Where's the high-quality offensive tackle? You might have a high-quality rookie. If you're being generous, you have half a high-quality rookie. Leaving aside his cataclysmic injury, leaving aside Rashee Rice's injury, which you seem to just think he's going to bounce back from and be hunky-dory, and the suspension, which is hanging over his head. Granted, the NFL loves the Chiefs, so they might decide, hey, we're going to give you a one-game slap on the wrist just to keep things moving along and pushing. Leaving aside all that, if you're going to be optimistic about the suspensions, the injuries, I refuse to let you be overly optimistic about Josh Simmons. He will not be a good tackle day one. He may be a good pass blocker, but he will not be a good tackle.
He's going to be a good tackle.
Okay, buddy. Chiefs are winning 10 games. Cope about it.
They're winning 13.
See, all this is going to be moot when Patrick Mahomes goes down week 2 and they win 3. That's going to be pretty good for the Patrick Mahomes GOAT case. If the Chiefs win 4 games with him out of the lineup, that's going to be something.
It's going to be the case for one of these teams. There's going to be some teams that are affected by injury on some level.
And there are going to be some teams affected by players kissing other men on top of the head. And getting suspended, but I digress.
That has been our AFC West record predictions. Check out our other record predictions on our channel that we've posted already. Subscribe to our channel for the rest of our record predictions. Like the video, and we will see you in the next one.